Hello again, YouTube. This is Maverick, and I told you I had something special for you coming up, and here she is. It's a 1957 Continental Mark II. This is not a Lincoln. This is a Continental. It was his own brand in 56 and 57. Before being incorporated back into Lincoln later on. But this year, 57, is the last year of the Mark II. He only produced 444 of these in 57. But for this year, it's a Continental brand. The title says Continental. The title does not say Lincoln. You will not find a Lincoln emblem anywhere on this car. And by the way, this, this is the emblem that most people affiliate with Lincoln these days. But this is a Continental Star. This is not a Lincoln emblem. Or it wasn't back in the 50s when this car was built. This is a Continental Star. If you recall, I'll give you kind of a brief history on the Lincoln brand. At one time, starting in the 60s and going up into the 70s, all Lincolns were Continentals. For example, you have the Mark III, like I have up there that I showed you. Mark III was a Continental Mark III. Later on, they had the Continental Town Car. But they were all Continental, so therefore they could all bear the Continental Star, technically. Here's a very fancy Continental Star here on the back. But they could all bear the Continental Star. And I think the first car to break with that, I could be wrong, but I believe the first car to break with that was the Lincoln Versailles. I don't believe it was a Continental Versailles. I think it was just a Versailles, and that was in the late 70s, around 77 or so, I think, when the Versailles came out. But anyway, this particular car here was sold new in Palm Beach, Florida. It's kind of been off the radar as far as the Continental Mark II registry. But I do know it spent time in New York, and then it spent time here in North Carolina, and that's where I found it. And anyway, it needs restoration. I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but it has less than 22,000 original miles. This interior, besides needing a cleaning, these seats are perfect. And I have the chrome trim and everything that's missing. There you go, 21,794 miles. Original. And the damage that's done to this car is just from sitting. You can kind of tell that, it's not done due to wear and tear so much. It's just sitting. Oh, and if you don't know how the gas door opens on these, oops, there you go. It's kind of got a Cadillac style. That's most famous, I think. Cadillac, I think, is most famous for having those kinds of, gas access behind the tail light. But that's pretty cool. the body's pretty straight. I mean, it's got some rust issues, and again, that's from sitting. The engine's not locked up. Engine turns, but I haven't tried to crank it yet. You see, we got the Continental Star on the valve covers, which was, you know, obviously only used on the Continental Mark II because that was not a Lincoln emblem at the time. That's a Continental emblem. And these cars, like I said, they're rare. 57 especially, like this one. They built on 56 and 57. They built less than 3,000 total, both years. But like I said, the 57 was by far the rarest. They only built 444 in 57. They were all hand built. They sold for $10,000 in 56 and 57, which was an astronomical amount of money back then. Basically, if you were driving this car around back in the 50s, you were a big shot. I mean, you were something. Just to give you a few examples, Elvis had one, Frank Sinatra, Elizabeth Taylor had a custom Mark II. By custom, I mean it was painted in a custom color to match her eyes. You may see it. I know it's been in some museums. Obviously the Ford family had several. You know, owning the company, Ford Motor Company. The Batistas down in Cuba that were president of Cuba at the time, they had several. Obviously this was right before Castro overthrew them. I think that was 58. But they had several. Who knows what happened to them after the fact, but the cars, I mean. But anyway, I mean, anybody who was anybody had these cars back in the day, and that had the celebrity status and all that, you know. You were, like I said, you were a big shot if you had this car back in the 50s. And they've been a collectible since they were new, pretty much. I mean, the low production numbers, the being hand built, they were like an American Rolls Royce, you know. So they've been collectible. You know, there's never really been a time where they've just been an old junk car. Where all cars kind of go through that stage after 10 to 20 years. A lot of times people kind of discard them. That's when you see a lot of them in the junkyard or whatever. Well, these cars never really, overall speaking, these cars never really went through that stage because they were always collectible. And, you know, people hot rod them out or people restore them now. You know, either way, it goes kind of both ways with that. But they seem to get, this seems to be a car that's not really bothered too much value-wise as far as being hot rodded out. You know, I've seen people, I mean, one went at Barrett-Jackson just recently for $220,000. That was completely hot rodded out. But anyway, and while we're here, I I apologize for the mess. But I wanted to show you my personal, one of my personal Mark 8s. Now this was my baby. And like I said, I apologize for the mess. This garage, I've got to clean it out. But I've got parts and, you know, I've got all kinds of stuff laying around. But this was my baby back in the day. It's a 93 Mark 8. It's, you know, got the 4.6 delivered cam, all that. It would fly. I had it I bought it in 2004. And it was actually my second Mark 8. I bought a parts car before I even bought this car, by a couple of months. But, and you know, the parts car did come in handy on this one. There was a couple little trim pieces or something I'd have to replace here and there, and that came in handy. But anyway, this car, bought it in 2004. In 2008, Halloween night, I got hit by a deer, and it destroyed my driver's fender, which is off the car, and messed up my door here on it. You can tell it's kind of dark in here. And anyhow, so while I was waiting, of course none of my parts car had a good driver's door or fender, go figure. So I was waiting to find parts. I had it parked at my, you know, at my other property, where you've seen me film before. And the top of a tree fell out and landed, you guessed it, right in my back glass. And so now I finally got a door and fender all these years later. And I've got back glasses in the car, but I'm not good at auto glass. I don't know what to, you know, I'm gonna attempt it, but see, these Mark 8s have a problem with the this trim here. So I'm gonna have to do something if I transplant glass, if I don't put brand new glass in it. Now I've got 3 back glasses still in Mark 8 parts cars up at the house. So I've got 3 to choose from, but this rubber trim piece has problems on these, and so that's going to be a little bit. It's going to be interesting. That's all. But I'll be moving out of the garage soon, obviously, to make room for that. That needs to be in the garage, and it should fit. I've had my, if you can see, I had my 72 Mark IV in the garage before. It barely fits, but it fits. Now, I think that's probably about the same size as the 72. They're both big cars. The Mark II is really a lot bigger in person than what you expect when you see it online or in pictures or whatever, you know. But anyway, I need to move this out, and I will be soon. But anyhow, I do keep the Mark II under car cover for the time being. Again, I apologize for the mess. I've got a lot of stuff around here I need to get rid of. Here's some Jaguar XJR wheels and some regular Jaguar XJ8 wheels. And yes, that down there beside the Mark IV is a 1972 Gran Torino Sport. Fastback, 63R body code. 351 Cleveland Cobra Jet. Q code engine. C6 auto, 9-inch rear end, etc., etc. Bucket seats, the shifter on the floor shifter. Yeah, that's an interesting car too, but it also needs restoration. But anyway, this video is about the Mark II here and my mess. But as I said, this is my latest acquisition, and I'm kind of proud of it, for what it's worth. I know to some of you this may look like just some old junk car, but it's, to me, and I think a lot of people who enjoyed the Lincoln Mark series, even though this is not a Lincoln, like I said, and possibly other people really enjoy these cars. Really, you know, I know to me this was always kind of the holy grail. And I've told you before I enjoy working with special cars, but I may have outdone myself on this one because this is a very, very special car. Anyway, thanks for watching, YouTube.